Fourth seal, widespread death on earth. Revelation chapter 6 verses 7 to 8 NKJV. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death. And Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. The fourth rider John saw was named Death. The horse on which he rode is given an eerie description by John. While many English translations use terms such as pale or ashen, the original language describes this horse's color as chloros. This is a yellow-tinged green. The same word to describe the color of the grass on which the 5,000 sat to be fed by Jesus, Mark chapter 6 verse 39. The same color word also appears in Revelation chapter 8 verse 7 and 9 to 4. Applied to something like a horse. This color suggests decaying flesh. Death and Hades, the unseen world, follow this fourth rider, claiming its victims. The damage this rider causes is staggering. 1/4 of the world's population die in this judgment. They fall victim to the sword, likely in civil war and infighting, starvation, pestilence, and savage animals. Based on current world populations, this death toll would be nearly 2 billion. Obviously, the tribulation is a dreadful time of judgment on the wicked. We believers ought to be thankful that God has delivered us from the wrath to come. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 10. The first living creature was like a lion, the second living creature like a calf, the third living creature had a face like a man, and the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle. Revelation chapter 4 verse 7. Who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel you shall become a plain. And he shall bring forth the capstone with shouts of grace, grace to it. Zechariah chapter 4 verse 7 NKJV. When they fast, I will not hear their cry, and when they offer burnt offering and grain offering, I will not accept them. But I will consume them by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence. Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 12 NKJV. And it shall be, if they say to you, Where should we go? Then you shall tell them, Thus says the Lord, such as are for death, to death, and such as are for the sword, to the sword. And such as are for the famine, to the famine, and such as are for the captivity, to the captivity. Jeremiah chapter 15 verse 2 NKJV. And I will send the sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them, till they are consumed from the land that I gave to them and their fathers. Jeremiah chapter 24 verse 10 NKJV. Thus says the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will send on them the sword, the famine, and the pestilence, and will make them like rotten figs that cannot be eaten, they are so bad. Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 17 NKJV. 1/3 of you shall die of the pestilence, and be consumed with famine in your midst, and 1/3 shall fall by the sword all around you, and I will scatter another third to all the winds. And I will draw out a sword after them. Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 12 NKJV. So I will send against you famine and wild beasts, and they will bereave you. Pestilence and blood shall pass through you, and I will bring the sword against you. I, the Lord, have spoken. Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 17 NKJV. For thus says the Lord God, how much more it shall be when I send my 4 severe judgments on Jerusalem, the sword and famine and wild beasts and pestilence, to cut off man and beast from it? Ezekiel chapter 14 verse 21 NKJV. I will leave you in the wilderness, you and all the fish of your rivers, you shall fall on the open field, you shall not be picked up or gathered. I have given you as food to the beasts of the field and to the birds of the heavens. Ezekiel chapter 29 verse 5 NKJV. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Matthew chapter 24 verse 9 NKJV. I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children, destroy your livestock, and make you few in number, and your highways shall be desolate. Leviticus chapter 26 verse 22 NKJV.